meat stick kind of person.
Well, just give me a second. I'm eating it, and then we can start.
Of course.
Do you enjoy them, Charlotte?
You know what I like about them? I feel like it's like a snack that is not just like a handful of Cheez-Its, which I also enjoy.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's probably, I mean, it only has 4 grams of protein. I don't know. I'm working on having like better grab and go snacks. And I even asked everyone and everything was so much. I just want something that's like in a wrapper, like string cheese, this handful of peanuts. I don't want to have to like get a thing and put a dip on. Like I can't.
I like to take a bite of the stick and then Ritz cracker.
I will just make an observation that you're not like making sounds of enjoyment while you eat it.
Well, I'm trying to be conscious of the misophonia. What is it called?
Like you just don't look like you're enjoying that snack. Like if you were on mute and I was like, is this woman enjoying the snack she's eating? I would say no.
Welcome to Just for Moms. I'm Charlotte.
I'm Caitlin.
I'm Megan.
And I'm Kallie.
We are regular moms
Talking about regular stuff
like aging, parenthood,
work-life balance,
and figuring out what's for dinner. Again.
a no judgment zone to talk, laugh,
And maybe cry about all the things women think about on a daily basis.
Welcome to Just for Moms. This is episode 10, I believe, which is, I mean, it might call for a little dance celebration because somehow,
It's exciting.
Yeah, somehow here we are. And when we are recording this, we're not quite there yet, but you're listening to it and it is spring. Like it is officially spring if you're listening to this.
Wait, is that for the calendar? Because you've just you cannot put that out into the world.
No.
Like
You have to get Charlotte's face.
You just don't say that out loud. Like I'm tempted to even cut it from the audio.
Because there's spring on the calendar and there's
is the
spring in the weather.
There's a reason I'm saying this. It is the first day of spring. And I feel like sometimes things happen in nature, in my home, whether I want them to or not. Even if outside is still 30 degrees, there are now stink bugs in my bedroom.
Nothing says spring like stink bugs.
Right. Nothing says spring like whatever I'm allergic to in my basement just waking up. So now I'm sneezing every day. And so because it might not actually feel or be anything like spring outside right now, I want to know what you don't like about spring, because a lot of people just go into this season and celebrate and they're just so happy to come out from from winter. But some people, it's not the greatest time. So
Can we pause game? And has anyone confirmed that stink bugs actually stink? Or is it just every time I kill one, I'm like, they do. When you kill them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or like you scare them away. I don't know.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've never.
Squish it between a paper towel and then sniff it.
Oh, you have?
Yeah. To see if it
I'm
smells.
I'm gonna do it now just because you said it.
Well, and we name them Jerry. So they're
all of them?
Yes, because there's a video, you could find it online. My toddler last year was very scared because they just appear all over the house. And, they look like small dinosaurs.
Yeah,
and so I told her, oh, that's Jerry. He lives here. He's fine. He won't hurt you. And so
let's go kill him.
Let's also kill him.
And see if he smells.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me what you don't like about spring.
The mud. I mean, this year I think we're in for really muddy because it's already just so melty. I don't love that, but yes. I don't know. I don't get allergies. I love spring.
Yeah,
I like spring too, but I think the part I don't like about spring is like maybe this time of spring when it's not officially warm yet, and so when you get a cold day, because it's just like wet and gray, like 40 degrees can feel like negative 3 degrees. I can't figure out the science of that, but like for some reason I'm colder during that like transition into the warm than I am in the dead of winter, and I don't like that.
We were literally just talking about this on the ride to Louise's early orchestra today. It's not that cold. I think it was 35 during the ride over. Yeah. Keep in mind, guys, we're recording this when it is not officially spring. Mm-hmm. And that's downright balmy. And so in my brain, I'm like, it's only 35. It's going to be so warm. We were freezing because our brain had shifted gears. I agree with you. It's a psychology that someone can study.
And don't you feel like too, Kallie, it's like you go to all the stores and the spring clothes are out. So you feel like you have to buy and wear the spring clothes, but it's 35 degrees out and you're freezing in the spring clothes.
Yes. Yeah.
Megan, do you just love spring?
I like the daffodils and the tulips.
Who doesn't?
I don't like the mud. I feel like sometimes we get gypped where we live, where we don't even have a spring. It just skips over and goes into summer. But I do like anything getting warmer.
I will disagree with that because
Okay.
when I lived in the South for 12 years, it would go from winter to spring.
Yes.
For 5 minutes. And then it would be 78 degrees and you'd be like, this is beautiful. And then it would be 90 the next day. So we really sometimes never got a spring. It was just like winter, a couple days of, wow, this is beautiful, to disgusting. Where up here, I mean, it gets warm. I mean, the rain, I think, is probably the worst. I remember being in high school, it just would rain every day in May.
Yeah. We get I feel like we get a lot of rain in the spring. And then one thing I just remember as a kid growing up, my birthday is in March. And I feel like the equator, I don't know what's changed, but I remember having my birthday party March 25th in the yard with my cousins and my friends on the swing set. And I was in like a t-shirt dress, March 25th. Now, March 25th here, it's still snowing now.
Megan, your birthday was yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thanks.
Wait, weren't you the one, Megan, that went to a daffodil cutting farm last year?
Yes,
I want to do that this year.
Yeah, I like going to the tulip. I've done to the tulip ones, the daffodils. Oh, you know what else too? I like the orchid shows, anything with like flowers and yeah.
I want to do that too. That's fun. So I'm going to segue away from spring and move right into April Fool's Day because it's next week. But the reason I bring this up is because I don't particularly get excited about April Fool's Day. When I was a teacher, my students wanted me to be excited about it and I did it. And so do you guys get excited in your homes about April Fool's Day? I feel like, Megan, you probably prank your children.
I feel like, yeah, I do come up with some jokes, or I'll come up with a creative reel, or, the funny one, like when you're pregnant and you're not, just, it's April Fool's. But I don't love April Fool's.
Wait, that's an example of what not to do, right? That's not.
Yeah, probably don't do that.
No,
Yeah.
definitely.
Never.
Don't do that. Ever.
Never.
Well, it'd just be to Joe, so whatever.
Oh, to your spouse, maybe.
Oh, not to the kids. God, no.
To no one else, to social media, no.
Yeah. Oh, no. Just a private joke,
Yeah,
But,
to a husband, I'll give you that. Okay.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's a fun, I feel like the kids do stuff too.
I don't have the bandwidth for me. My kids did bring me, I want to say it landed on a Saturday or Sunday, and they came up into the room with a cup of coffee one day, and the shit-eating grins on their face was enough. And it was just straight soy sauce, which, you can't get that within 3 inches before you smell it. So it didn't work on me, but they still remember that time? And I was like, yeah, that was a good one, kids.
You got me good.
Yeah.
Callie, do you like jokes?
No, I like jokes. I hate April Fool's Day. I just think it's stupid.
Me too.
I don't know. I don't want to spend the whole day worrying. Are you real? Is it real? I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't. I don't. I could see it being cute when the kids are a little older and they think it's funny to but just, yeah, it's not for me.
No.
The only thing I've seen that is sort of funny on April Fool's Day is when, in the olden days of blogging, probably there's people on social media do it, when someone who is a super fancy designer will write a whole very serious post about the lazy boy that they've just added to their living room, or something like that. That I do find to be very clever, but that's a victimless crime.
Yeah. I feel like April Fool's Day is lost its glimmer too, because I feel like back in the day, before social media and stuff, it's you could maybe get to lunch and not know that it's April Fool's Day yet. If you just kind of were. Nowadays, it's everybody, you figured it out before it's 8 a.m. And so it's nobody can really, I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to prank. I feel like my kids did the one where they went and they got fake poop or something, like that plastic poop stuff, and they put it in a bed and they were like, Mom, look who did that. There's silly stuff, or even that you could buy from the dollar store that they've pranked me on. But I kind of always oh, April Fool's, because so it's it's got to be a good April Fool's joke to get me. That's what I gotta say.
I'm looking up the origin because it is sort of a random holiday. It does seem like it's sort of worldwide, but it doesn't, from my very quick scanning, it says it The disputed association between April Foolishnesses and Geoffrey Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. Like, that's really old. It seems crazy that that's how far back it goes, but I wanted it to be something more exciting than that.
Yeah.
Oh, the Canterbury Tales are not exciting to you?
I mean, maybe they were at the time, but no.
I don't remember anything about April Fools and that from my studies. So we're going to segue into mom fails. And I don't have any this week, but does anybody else? I mean, I say this, I fail every day. It's just every day. There's no point in pointing it out.
My mom fail is I have one child. I mean, I have many children that are going through various stages of adolescence. So at any given moment, it's a landmine that you don't know if you're stepping on. This child is going through the throes of it more than others. And she asked me to move her clothes from the washing machine to the dryer when she was at school. I did that. I did, however, forget to start the dryer. And so when she came home, I think she had a very specific outfit in mind for, I can't remember what we were going to do, but this was akin to catastrophe. And the glares that I mean, I think she ultimately, we got it through, and I think she wore like kind of damp jeans, but everything else was okay. But that was my fail, because I was like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I blew it. I just made a mistake. There's nothing there's no fix right now. You're going to have to make do with wet pants, or just, I don't know, go in your room and find something else. But that was my fail.
Yeah, she had that outfit in mind.
Apparently.
Yes.
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah. Kallie, do you have any?
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm in a struggle zone right now with like a work-life balance thing. It's just, there's just a lot of children. There's just a lot of children. You know what I mean? It's just doctor's appointments and dentists, and then just like trying to like, where am I supposed to work in that? And it's just one of those when you're like, maybe I should just not work and just stay home so I can go to all these doctor's appointments. I'm just in one of those ruts right now.
I'm very familiar with that. Where you kind of just, you don't, it was almost like you have no time for yourself. It's serving everyone else. And then you just want to quit it all.
And it's just hard because my job is not, and it's tricky because obviously my husband has a job where he has to be there, right? Like he's expected to like be there during blocks of time, and he's very aware of my work and helps as much as he can. But when there's something that comes up at a Tuesday at 2, you know, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I have the job where I can leave Tuesday at 2, but then it sucks because then I'm not working Tuesday at 2 when I was supposed to be working, you know? So it's like, it's that kind of tricky slope. And we've been trying to figure it out. And again, it's not like he's like, you have to do it because my job's more important, because it's not. It's a very equal balance in our house in that way. But part of it is just the job I have too, I think, you know.
Well, it's also hard because like I wouldn't have guessed that this chapter of my life would feel more cumbersome than the chapter you're in, because your stage is so exhausting because you just have to be with these kids and their attention span is 12 minutes. But if I were to look at how much time I have available, I feel like it's much less. Like the minute the school bell rings, I'm done. And there was a time when I could at least be at home, like attending to my kids, but also like checking this or that or the other. So not having a block of time is also something that I find can be sort of tricky. Like it's one thing to have 2 hours to get work done during the day, but with little kids, it's usually not the same 2 hours or continuous, and you can't record a video in 5-minute snippets. I mean, we can like edit a social media video.
The blocks of time, I think, is what's the hardest, is that it's like I there's certain things that you can do, but there's certain things I'm like, I need 2 hours to sit down and do this. Like I can't just pick away at it. So
right. And it has to be uninterrupted time. And,
right.
And you need time to get into it and then to get out of it.
Yeah.
And you talking about that really does trickle in nicely to our topic for today's episode. This was an audience question. It came through in one of our messages, and I'm just going to summarize what she asked, which was, would you be willing to discuss how much each of your families spend on groceries and childcare each month? I find this to be kind of a taboo topic that for some reason, paradoxically, people want to flex about their kids' programs and activities and whatever, but act humble and budget conscious at the same time. Anyways, I think this would be interesting. So I proposed this topic to our group, and we were kind of trying to figure out how to talk about it. And before we get into it, I just wanted to read some statistics that I came across that are kind of obvious, but they're also kind of not. I think everyone knows having a child is wildly expensive, but you don't really realize how expensive it is until you're in the middle of it all, or if something big happens in your life where suddenly you're like, wow, where did all our money go? So according to NerdWallet, nearly a third of Americans under age 60 who aren't parents say they don't plan to have kids because the overall cost of raising a child is too high. So I thought that was crazy because they said under the age of 60. And that just goes to show people don't have to be young to adopt a child, to have a child, or anything like that. But that people are very conscious right now of how expensive having children is. And another statistic that was interesting that goes along with this is around 1 in 5 parents of minors who don't plan to have more kids say because the overall cost of raising another child is too high. I think when I was deciding to have a family, my husband just kept saying, oh, it's going to be expensive. It's going to be expensive. And then the baby was here and I'm like, well, it's not that bad. I'm breastfeeding her and I just have to buy diapers. And at the time I had left my teaching position because we moved and it was just life. I never thought anything of it. Fast forward a couple years later, and I have one child eating me out of house and home. I have another child who's breastfeeding, but also has a dairy allergy. So we have to do all these accommodations, and both of them are in diapers. And I'm not back at work because I'm not making enough money to work. And I'm like, what is happening? How did I get here? How did I go from this happy little place of a newborn and she just needs diapers to 2 of them and they need everything? And it's wild. And so the 3 of you all have very different experiences and thoughts on this. And I think other moms out there like to hear other people's perspectives and kind of, pull the curtain back and talk about it, because it shouldn't be something that no one talks about.
I'm curious how many of you, so when we started to have a family, like the finances of it for us was like college. How can we pay for college? It wasn't the 18 years prior to that. And with every child, I think my husband was more aware and anxious and nervous of, but college. And I wouldn't say I was fast and loose, but I just sort of found this place of like, we are very lucky and fortunate to have live in the stage of live in the country where we do, to have the jobs that we do. And I was like, plenty of people that don't have that level of sort of privilege or good fortune or dumb luck, whatever you want to call it, have figured out how to get their kids through college. And I just was like, I can't imagine a scenario where we're looking at one child and being like, ugh, I wish we didn't have Arthur because like the other kids can't go to Harvard or what, I just was like, I think we just you have to be a little bit in the moment. And like, yeah, we're real concerned about college. And I don't, at this point, we don't have a lot of excess each year where the run rate is a lot, but we also like live in a beautiful part of the world and, in this house that fits us, and we have food. So it's hard to be like, there's plenty of things that we could be doing differently if we really needed to make some significant changes. It would affect our lifestyle in a big way, but it could be done. And I guess my question is, how many of you thought about the nuance of finance before you had kids, or did you sort of approach it the way we did, which is like, we'll figure it out?
That's exactly what I did.
Okay.
Figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, we discussed it. Like, another child is going to be another cost, especially, I mean, we had 4 children quite close together, so multiple kids needing daycare or childcare, at the same time. But it wasn't, for us, didn't end up being a deciding factor. Yeah, it was, oh, we'll figure it out. We'll make the sacrifices necessary.
Yeah, like I think there's a scenario when we might have 3 kids in college at the same time. Yeah. And that's like,
yeah,
that's major.
Yeah.
But,
You figure it out, right, Charlotte?
I mean, listen, call me in 5 years, and if I'm living in my 1-bedroom apartment with my family of 7, then you know our solution.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I feel like in our house, we got married. I wanted kids right away. Joe wanted to wait a full year. Again, he was like the more of like, do you know how much this is going to cost? That's going to cost. This is going to, and I was sort of like, we'll figure it out. It's fine. We'll manage. And even now today, same thing. I'm always like, oh, it's fine. We'll figure it out. And he's the numbers person. Like, you like, we can't do that because we need to budget for this. So I feel like we sort of level each other out in that manner. He does make me put together a lot of spreadsheets with how much extracurricular activities cost for our kids for fall, winter, spring. So he knows how much that's going to cost. And then he's made me do ones, when it's tax time, he'll have me do one for how much we spend on groceries in Costco, just because he likes to see. So I'll do that. Again, he's the numbers person. I'm just doing what I'm told. I kind of do it and I'm like, oh, but it is important to know, like he says, like it's not just, so.
But I was just going to ask a question, and I think I know the answer, but for anyone that's listening might not know. Did all of you leave your jobs because it made more sense to stay home with your children than to pay for childcare?
Kind of. When we first started having kids, I was a part-time school counselor. So I worked 3 days a week. And when I first, and we lived in the city, and I wanted to go back to work. So we did have a nanny for the 3 days that I was working. I do think my nanny made about the same amount as I did. So that was a wash. But for me, I felt like I was still home more than I was not. I had just gotten a master's degree, and it was really important for me it felt like sort of the right equation. And I was like, there's going to come a point when this child will be in preschool or whatever, and then I won't have to have the nanny and I'll start making money. So for me, it was sort of like, this is a short period of time when I'm going to be working, and it'll be a wash, but it'll be worth it because whenever. And then that was sort of the reality until we decided to leave the city. And then when we left the city, that's when it didn't make sense for me to go back to work. There weren't as many opportunities for school counselors in the Connecticut schools as there were in the city schools. And I think at that point we had 3 babies. And so the math was not going to math. And so I did, but I will say that's when I started blogging, and, there's no social media at the time. And that, I don't know, that was definitely like a shot in the dark. It was just something to do. I think there were a few people that had evidence of this being like a job, but it wasn't the way it is now. And, the last year or so excluded, I got to the place where I was making 2 or 3 times more what I would as a school counselor. And I always say that with the big asterisk that that's not because I was such a fantastic content creator. It was because school counselors are paid like half of what they should be. Same with teachers. I mean, it was more about the low salary of the education than it was about what I was making as a content creator. But that's a long-winded way of saying this job has allowed me to to keep working and not have to pay for childcare per se. I mean, we did have babysitters and nannies when the kids were younger and I was doing this, but that was more just because I couldn't physically be in. Like, there was a time when half the kids were going to preschool and half the kids were napping, and I just, I think we had 5 under 6 or something. So I just couldn't, I physically couldn't do it.
There's just one of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kallie, I feel like you have a lot of experience with how much every avenue costs for childcare, nanny, and all of that, and probably can give a lot of insight into that.
Yeah. So when I had my first, I was still working. So I went back to work. I got pathetic maternity leave. I think I had to go back when he was like 10 weeks old. And so he was in a daycare, and I wish I could remember how much we were spending on daycare, but also that was 6 years ago, and God knows the cost of daycare in 6 years has probably quadrupled. I can only imagine. And then when my second was born, we were still in daycare. I don't even remember. They all mixed together. But eventually I was able to leave my job because I was able to do what I do now. I was making more doing what I do now than what I was making at my office job. And then we knew that it would give us the flexibility that, you're from home. And like I sort of said earlier, it's a double-edged sword. Now I have the flexibility that I can run and pick up a kid when they're sick. Or I get to go to, I can make it to all the doctor's appointments, the dentist appointments, but I also don't really have office hours. So it's sort of a tricky thing now. And so, yeah, we've done everything. We've done daycare. We've had babysitters. We currently have a nanny that's 3 times a week, which is amazing. And it's hard. I feel like a lot of it ends up coming down to like, we're thinking about summer care right now. And I was texting you guys about this. I was like, how much you guys pay to send your kids to summer camp for the summer? And it was this idea of like, are we sending your kids to camp for the summer? Or are we just like hiring, like the idea of hiring somebody for the summer seemed like wildly flamboyant's not the word I'm looking for, but you know what I
like
mean?
decadent. Yeah.
Yes. But then when it came out to the cost of having to take my kids to somewhere, and so I don't know, any way you cut it, there's definitely more affordable ways, but then sometimes the nanny thing, it helps out because, then when my kids are home from vacation and I already have her here. And so I'm not trying to like bring in somebody else or find some like holiday, whatever. And I think what I've realized at the end of the day is there's not like some perfect recipe to it, especially, I mean, when we've added new children every time there's, we're just like we're just constantly like spinning plates trying to find care. And again, my 6-year-old now is like, he could, he can't be alone in the house, but like he's fine. Necessarily doesn't need to be an adult assigned to him. But I have all kids that need adults assigned to them.
Right.
And so
yeah, Miles has probably graduated to like a college senior or like a high school senior could play Connect Four with him or something.
Yes. Yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, he could just, as long as like he's in the house and there's an adult, like, yeah, he's at the age where it's like, you don't really need to worry. He's also just a firstborn. So he's like responsible.
Yeah, we never, and it's when I was thinking about my answer to this, we never considered like the daycare versus nanny thing. Daycare, I don't remember ever being on the table. And I think it was as simple as it was only 3 days a week when I needed help. I think at the time my husband had sort of a different structure to his job and we lived in the city. And so the thought of sending my little, 10-week, 12-week-old newborn to a New York City daycare felt a little bit different than like going around the corner to Miss Peg's like grandma daycare with 7 children in her living room. Yeah. Did you look into nannies when he was a baby, or was that too expensive given your work hours? Yeah.
Yeah. It was, and also just, I mean, the what I was making, I mean, I just had my office job still and I was growing my business. I mean, we couldn't have afforded a nanny even if we wanted one. It was just not an option. And so some of it, I can understand the being in the position of not necessarily wanting to send your child to daycare, but having to. I mean, we didn't have any other option. Right. That's what I had to do.
And I think for us, the 3 days was key. Like it was 3 days, 8 to 3. So it was we could have done daycare, but we could afford that nanny.
I mean, but as somebody who now, with multiple kids, it makes more sense for us to have the nanny that we have now. And just logistically, like the thought of having to take my kids to 8 million different places, like now I'm losing an hour of work time just to like drive people places. Trying to find a nanny, even if you only need 3 days a week, sometimes that's hard now because they want they're looking for full, they need to pay bills too. So that's another tricky thing too, where you're like, I only need a few days a week, so I'll get a nanny, but good luck finding one that only wants to do that.
Megan, did you have kids in the city?
No. I did not. So before we had kids, Joe had said to me, and I to myself, was I going to go back to the fashion world or would I stay home? And I wasn't sure. He was like, well, let's wait and see how you feel when the baby comes. So I had our first Ava and I was still working in that world. And I just decided I wanted to stay home. So Joe sat me down and we went over finances and budgets. And he said, listen, at the time we were in a townhouse, if you stay home, we're not moving into a house anytime soon. Like we're going to have to stay in this townhouse for probably 2 to 3 years and save if we're not going to have your salary. And also, working in the fashion world, half my paycheck, back then I was like 26, went towards clothing and outfits and what I would spend on manicures and pedicures and my hair and just silly stuff because you're in your 20s, and that's what I did then. So that was the deal, and he was like, you're not going to be going to get your hair done at the expensive place that you normally go to. You're probably going to have to go there. And, every 2 weeks, manicure, pedicures, you're going to be doing. And so I was like, okay. And I really wanted to stay home. And I am grateful because I just didn't want to miss anything. And, I made, you have to do what you got to do for your family and what's in your family's budget. And, that's what we all chose to do, and regret it. But it was just, again, sitting down and going through the finance of what's it going to cost, and we have to live within our means. So that was that.
So you were always home full time.
Yeah, since I've had, and then when Nico turned 1, I started to get the itch. Do I go back to the fashion industry world, or I did marketing? So like, can I do marketing for another company? There's a lot of opportunities around here where we live. And then I started my blog, which turned into content creation now. But so that was like an outlet for me to do something for myself and make a little income to pay for the kids.
Did you ever work? You would stop teaching when you had kids, right, Caitlin?
So I taught I taught up until I was pregnant with Eiley, and then Annabelle's daycare was basically my salary as a teacher was going to pay for Annabelle and Eiley to go to daycare. So we said and my husband was commuting 2 hours into it every day in the morning and at night to go to work in Atlanta. And it made zero sense. Like, what are we doing? Why am I leaving when every cent I'm going to make is just going to pay for them to be somewhere? And he's never home anyways. And so I stayed home, and then we didn't plan it really. It kind of just happened that we suddenly moved to Connecticut. And when we got here, my plan was to go teach. And it took a really long time for my certification come over. Well, finally came over, and it was like, oh, I can make some money blogging. And so I'm making money blogging. And what's the point of me really going to try to get a teaching job now? Because Annabelle's only in preschool. We're going to have to find a full-time daycare for Eiley now. And talking to everybody I knew up here, I'm like, oh my gosh, wow, daycare is way more expensive here than it was in Georgia. And teachers aren't making that much more. So how does this make sense? And I have had so many small side jobs since 2017. I worked part-time for PR. I worked part-time for my town. I've done all these little things to continuously bring in money, because at the end of the day, it still makes zero sense, even with Arbor, for us to put even her in daycare full-time. Because with my background, with the time that I'd be outside of the home for wherever I'm going, then we'd be paying for before and after care for the kids. It's like, it never financially made sense. And to be honest, we're in this crossroads now because Arbor is 3. Everyone keeps saying, why isn't she in preschool? And I said, well, I can do preschool at home with her right now. Truthfully, sending her to a preschool in the spring is really just some hours for me it's going to be 2 hours of me home alone. And I'm paying somebody when I can just be with her anyways. But come in September, when she goes to school, we are like, okay, how many hours a week is she going to go? And where is she going to go? And how much is it going to cost? And what am I going to be doing while she's there? Because I feel like I need to find another job now. Like, I need to do something to make money, because unless I'm being paid for what I'm doing as I'm sitting here at home, it's this weird feeling I have. I don't know how to describe it. It's this constant chase I've been on. So when this person asked this question, I said, I get it. Like, everybody's navigating finances in some different way. And a lot of times I think that people might look at someone who's a quote unquote stay-at-home mom. And I call myself that because I'm not a stay-at-home mom. I'm literally waking up at 4:00 every morning to pitch articles to freelance write. I'm sitting here doing this, hoping that like this turns into something. And I start a photography business. There's so many other things going on. Long story short, no, I never went back to teaching. I never want to again. It doesn't pay enough money. And I think maybe when Arbor's in school full-time in kindergarten, I'll figure something out. I'm just I can't think about it right now.
Yeah, it's tricky. I was talking to my mother about this because I just listened to Ina Garten's autobiography, and her story is so interesting because she's probably a little bit younger than my folks, but she definitely grew up in the age where feminism and Gloria Steinem was like just coming to fruition. And so for a while, she was like, she said when she got married, it was like man and wife. So she was like, that was just the given, that it was my job. And she worked out of the house, but she was like, it was just sort of the assumption that my role was to support my husband. And she had this secondary interest of cooking that became a passion. She has no training. And she said it was really interesting for her to sort of reframe and consider, like, what is it that she wants? Not what is it she wants to do for the betterment of like her marriage or to support her husband. What is it that she wants? Which was a question that I don't think women had ever asked. And I was talking to my mom and I said, I'm definitely a different generation than that is. But I still think that for women, it's this interesting sort of catch 22, because I think for many of us, we do want to get married or have children or both. I knew that I wanted to have children. And for me, I wanted that to be as a married couple. And that did kind of dictate what jobs I got. I mean, I fell into teaching, but I certainly wasn't pursuing like the big fancy finance job that would pay for Harvard. I was doing what is going to make me happy because I know there's going to come a time when I'm going to be a mom, and that's going to be like, it didn't occur to me that I could have both. And my mother is a typical woman of her age where she didn't have a job, but I said, Mom, it would be so interesting to sort of see, like, you were always so busy and curious and kept yourself doing stuff, but you grew up in a world where it was never presented to you as, what do you want to do? And she filled it in the way it sounds like you're filling in, Caitlin. I'm filling it in a little bit because the job that I had last year is not the job that I have this year as far as online and content creation. So it's these sort of these big kind of proverbial like overwhelming questions of like, what do I want to be when I grow up? I don't want to go back into the classroom. So what skills do I have? And that is I think really complicated. And I think it's something that really only women who have kids can maybe relate to the way we're describing. I mean, I'm sure everyone has something like this, but I don't know. I don't have any answers, but
Yeah,
it's an interesting.
It is. I think, I'm sure we all know someone who has both parents work full-time jobs and both children are in daycare full-time. And I don't think anybody ever says that it's not a burden, the cost of childcare. And so what do a lot of families do when this happens? You make sacrifices, you leave your job to go home and you cut back here. And there's so many different things that people can do. And that was, I think, one of the other statistics that I had read was around 1 in 6 parents say they and their partner work or worked opposite shifts to avoid childcare, while at the same proportion work or worked from home and cared for their children while working, all to reduce childcare costs because it's so expensive. I did read that from 2022 to 2023, people were feeling more financially stable where childcare wasn't as overwhelming. But I think a lot of that has to do with the pandemic and just whatever, because I don't know anybody right now who's like, oh, I don't
because
mind.
everyone was home then too, right, Caitlin? Like a lot of people were home, working from home more, right?
Yeah.
I also don't know anyone whose family is watching their children. I mean, children have to be watched. So I don't know anyone where childcare is not a factor because of family or whatnot.
What do you mean?
Like a grandparent watching them or a sister.
Yeah.
No, I know. My parents say the same thing. They'll help here and there when they can, but my mom always says like, it's just too much for me. And she's like, I love you guys and I'll watch them if you go to a wedding or a weekend, but I'm not like doing the full-time thing. And I respect that. I mean, they have their life too.
I do. I actually know there's a mom or a family in the neighborhood and the grandmother watches
every day.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
She's lovely. But my mom said, as soon as I retire, I'm not babysitting.
No.
Nannying. It's like,
Should we quickly move into groceries? I
was just going to touch on that really quick. I feel like, but that could be a whole entire topic to discuss because
I feel like this topic skewed more work even. I mean, balancing work with childcare than it did even really the cost of things.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. It's where we ended up on this little journey.
For us right now, our childcare costs are zero because they're old and they're out of the house and we don't need a babysitter. I mean, I think there was a time when we were paying our sitter nanny like $22 an hour. And so if you have that, she was pretty flexible with her hours. So it was sort of 8 to 2, but it didn't, what was it, $500 a week? And that was something that I could afford from my business. And it was key. Ironically, that's about what we play. Our grocery bill is, I don't know, on average, it's probably $350, $400 a week, which is nutty. Things that have helped, I don't go to like Whole Foods or like we go to Stop and Shop. I should go to Costco, but even those stores, I think you get more than you need and they don't have everything you need.
Yep.
So for us, the grocery situation is I have found that meal planning and just being a little more organized with what I'm buying has helped with overage and waste. So right now, the only thing we throw out week after week seems to be like deli meat because my kids insist on buying it. And then shocker, they never eat it. And I should just not get it. But that's the week that they're like desperate for it. But we don't really go out to eat. We might order pizza once a week. My husband and I don't go out to eat a lot. So we're like, I don't cut coupons and have a garage filled with overstock, but I think that's sort of all we've been able to do to deal with food.
And it works perfect for you guys,
I mean,
right, Charlotte? Yeah.
They have food.
Yeah.
I feel like grocery is a hard one to pin down. Like I feel like when I'm being good about it and I'm really being strict and budgeting it, then I can stick to the cost. But to me, what I'm trying to say is, to me, groceries are one of those ones that's very easy that it can like fall away from you. So like I do grocery pickup twice a week, and like I know that like my first grocery pickup of the week is always between 150 and 200, and then it's that second, whether I'm going into the store, I'm doing pickup, it's that second one that's going to mess me up. I don't know. I think we try to budget around 250 a week probably for groceries, family of 5. But it's that second one that can mess you up. You know what I mean? That you end up getting some extra stuff. And so I do use grocery pickup because it helps me keep like a pulse on how much I'm spending. We use Costco, but Costco for me is like every 6 to 8 weeks. And like I'm just stock. I do have an overstock that I put in the basement. It's like I'm just buying the stuff that my kids plow through, like peanut butter and red sauce and macaroni.
I should do that. And I'm going to clarify, you are a family of 6, but Opal's not eating.
Oh, that's right. Oh, you're right. We are a family of 6. Okay, sorry. Still. Thank you for that clarification. Yeah, you're right. It's okay.
No, I agree with the Costco thing too. It's like you overbuy and then you throw things out. So I feel like I go there maybe once every 2 weeks and do the water, the paper towels, the toilet paper, a few things that, like you said, you plow through. Like I even buy like sometimes like the bulk and pasta, but then I go to the grocery store and I just go to the basic grocery store like ShopRite, or we have an Acme here in town and I use the coupon app and just buy the basic stuff. And I don't go to like the specialty markets just because, with just how much things cost right now, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, hopefully eventually, but it like for like how much even fruit costs at some of those specialty markets, it's crazy. And the kids, they come home from school and they eat one whole carton. It's like, oh, there goes $8 blueberries.
Do you have a post, Kallie? I feel like you do, on which things make sense to buy at a Costco. Like I feel like toilet paper is you do, because some things it's like, great, you have 19 rolls of toilet paper, but it's the same cost per roll, so why bother? Okay, I'm gonna go look.
Mine is more geared toward maybe I have one about dairy-free items, and then I do have stuff that I buy there. But I will say the worst thing to buy at Costco for me though is fruit, because everyone's like, it's so much cheaper there. I threw out many blueberries.
It goes bad faster. Yeah. And then I feel like I remember too, when my kids were younger, I was always told, don't buy diapers or wipes or formula at Costco because just of the cost. I don't know. So I just didn't. I don't know, because everyone told me not to.
I feel like the tricky thing about Costco is just, it's one of those, if you're going in and you're buying the stuff because it's like, it's a big thing, but you're not using it up. That's why, I don't usually buy produce at Costco for the same reason. But like, to me, the things that like I know I'm using them all the way up typically are worth it.
Yeah, I went yesterday and bought a giant thing of cashews and a giant thing of dried mango, and Arbor will plow through that in a week by herself.
Yeah,
and it's worth every penny.
Or those chickens. I like the chickens, the rotisserie chickens that are like $6. Although I did see TikTok the other day that you're not supposed to buy those.
Smell?
Because they're bad for you and all these things. No,
everything's bad for you.
I was like, oh gosh, that's like my go-to when I don't feel like cooking. I just cut off the chicken and make a salad. I was like, don't tell me I can't buy that $6 chicken, or is it even
No.
$4.99? I don't know. Whatever it is.
I think the one rotisserie chicken that you're getting a week, you're good. If you're eating 7 a day, then that whatever tragedy about it might add up. But
yeah,
I don't know. I don't get them from Costco because I live too far away, and by the time we get home, it just smells like a carcass in my car.
Yeah.
So
let's. We're not.
So we, we can talk more about groceries if that's something you want to hear. We love. Send us a message. Topic requests are always appreciated. We are going to close out our episode with peaks. That word didn't want to come out. Peaks and pits. I'd just like to say my peak for today is my new blow dryer. It's the peak of my life right now. I can sleep on my wet hair. I wake up in the morning with a rat's nest, and then I use this round brush blow dryer and my hair's straight. So
it's so long when it's straight.
It's so pretty.
Are you sitting on it? Is it that long yet?
I'm wearing it actually as pants.
Yeah, just flowing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I have a peak too. There's nothing more exciting than finding a new series that you can just like mainline. And for me, that's not like Love Island too. So I've just finished 2 series, and these are not new series, guys, so you can put down your pencils. I just watched The Diplomat with Carrie Russell. I had started it, but you have to focus. Like, this is not one to watch while you're like doing something, and that's my critical flaw. So I focused and I watched it, and there's only like 16 episodes, and I'm so discouraged. I think they're filming more or whatever. And then I just started Succession, which is another one that is like such old news, but that now that I'm focused and I understand what's happening, that's another one that's great.
That show's outstanding.
Amazing. I mean, listen, we talked about award shows last week. I know they won every award. I get it. I just hadn't watched. So here we are.
All right, Kallie.
I have a peak in that it's just been nice enough out that you can sort of like go for walks again, and like you don't hate it,
It's spring.
I feel like especially because like I have a lot of time where the older 2 are in school, and I have the 1-year-old, although will he be 2 by no, he won't be 2 yet. I have the 1-year-old, and then I have the baby. And it's sort of tricky. Like, it'd be easy to bundle up the 1-year-old and take them out, or even the newborn, but like kind of getting them both out when it's cold is a little bit trickier. Like logistically, feeding a newborn, if we go to the playground and it's freezing cold, you know what I mean? It's just sort of trickier. So it's nice that it's sort of getting to that time where it's like, I could walk down to the playground with the 1-year-old, and like if I had to take the baby out and feed her, it's not like so freezing that I can't do that. So it was yesterday, I took them both for a walk, and we brought the dog, and it was just, I felt like I was defrosting.
We were reminiscing about how I used to like move with these children when they were little. And we had a time when we had the double stroller. Once we moved to the suburbs, we could get the side-by-side double stroller. And then one would be on my chest. There were times when one would be on my back, and then one would be sitting in the front of the double stroller. And I think we had like a boogie board. Like that time goes by so much faster than your memory. So, like, you need that for 2 years. But I saw a woman crossing the street with her double stroller, and I had this like flashback of like, oh my God, my life used to revolve around like, what you're doing, Kallie, like the gear and the stuff.
Yeah. Being able to like move everybody.
Yeah.
Places.
Megan, do you have a pit or a peak?
I have a peak also.
Look at us, guys.
I recently got to hold a baby alligator.
Oh, I thought you were going to say baby, and it smells so good. Never mind.
Yes, a slimy baby alligator. I got to see 2 big ones, but I got to hold a little one, and it was like really slimy. Yeah.
And you liked this?
I thought it was cool. Yeah.
That's cool.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a peak.
Yeah. It was something I had never done. Check that box, right?
Was the face like taped up, or did you have to hold it, or were they young enough that they don't care?
Young enough that it was just sort of hanging out. But I think if you gave it a few more months, you probably weren't allowed. But I guess when they're little, we were at it like an alligator farm. They're allowed to do that.
Do they make noises?
No, it wasn't really making any noises.
Alligators are weird to me because they're like, weren't they alive when like dinosaurs were alive? It's like just the dinosaurs still. And we're all just like, that's fine. It's an alligator. Like, no, that is a dinosaur that's still alive.
With stink bugs.
Yeah.
With stink bugs. Yeah. Jerry's, alligators, T-Rex.
Bizarre.
Creepy crawlers. Yep.
Well, thank you for listening. As I previously mentioned, if you have any topic requests, let us know. Leave us a rating. Tell us you love us. Don't tell us you hate us. Have a great day.
You can. We can handle it.
No, but not like on a review. If you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all.
Oh, yeah, fair enough.
I agree.
You can DM us whatever you want, and then we'll talk about you behind your back. But don't leave a public review.
Just be kind.
Be kind.
Be kind, rewind. Jinx.
The things I plan, the things I would say no